All right, what's going on? Drive time, Thursday afternoon, 6 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. It is a gorgeous, like Chamber of Commerce type day outside. It's about 78 degrees, clear and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And as it is every single day, it's good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic, Porter Larson behind the glass today, producing the program, booking the program. Beautiful weather forecasted for the weekend. By kick, it'll be about 70 degrees and sunny. Should be sunny. So if you are sitting on the east side, you know the deal. Sunglasses, sunscreen, all the things. But it's a big week, man. You can feel it around town. Was walking the station mascot, Duke, around campus today prior to the show. The Big Noon group is setting up. Rice-Eccles Stadium is looking beautiful and cannot wait for this game. It is a massive game, big game. One of, if not the biggest games on the college football slate coming up this weekend. Early kick. Don't forget, getting your seats in time. 10 a.m. kick. Big noon style, noon back east, which, of course, I botched time zones so badly yesterday. Spaghetti brain, but noon back east, which is the big noon slate for our friends at Fox. Urban Meyer making the rounds today on a bunch of national shows, wearing a Ute quarter zip, representing the University of Utah, a place where he spent a couple of years back in the day. Brady Quinn, Matt Leinart, Gus Johnson, friend of the show. Appreciate all the feedback on the Gus Johnson wild ride yesterday, the Gus Johnson sermon, a 30-minute conversation with friend of the program, Gus Johnson. So that was fun. If you missed that, it's on our podcast page. It's also on our website. The Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC all have games featuring two teams ranked in the top 25. Auburn is in Norman to take on Oklahoma, so a big one there. And Illinois will travel to take on Indiana in Bloomington as well. So some big games on the college football slate, but not sure any are bigger than the one we'll have here in Salt Lake City coming up in just a couple of days at Rice-Eccles Stadium. An interesting betting trend has taken place over the past 12 hours for BYU East Carolina. We'll tell you about that. A lot of people think this game is going to be a little bit closer than the initial line would have indicated. So we'll get into that. Of course, we'll preview BYU's first road trip. Bills Mafia tonight expected to dump truck the struggling Miami Dolphins as week 3 of the pro football slate will begin after we say goodnight. At 6 o'clock here on the station, the kick time will be at 6:15. Jaden Daniels is not practicing prior to the game on Sunday. There's no official announcement as to whether or not he is going to play. Marcus Mariota would start if Daniels cannot go. But, of course, the news cycle in the world of pro football has been pretty heavily on the quarterback injury slate. We're not sure if Brock Purdy is going to play for San Francisco. He missed last week. They're going to take on the Cardinals. J.J. McCarthy is out for maybe a month. So we'll see. But pro football week 3 style gets going tonight in Buffalo as the Dolphins and the Bills will do battle. I think the Bills, at last I saw, were a 12.5-point favorite. That's a massive spread in the world of the NFL. RSL got thumped last night. Xavier Gozo scored potentially one of the best goals I've ever seen for RSL, but 4-1 was your final, and RSL in trouble now. Have been in trouble for quite some time. It was an anemic performance, Sonny with a hat trick, my guy, my former Tottenham Spur, who's now with L.A., and RSL will hit the road to take on that very same group coming up on Sunday afternoon. Good guest list today to get you guys ready for a big week ahead in the NFL and in college football. We're going to start things off with Tony Jones. Tony was in our market for 17 years, covered college football, covered the Jazz, covered a little bit of everything. He's now with the Athletic, and unfortunately for us, we are losing Tony to Philadelphia as the numbers for Jazz coverage these days are very low. No one gives a rip. And so Tony will have a chance to take a step up in his career. So we're going to bring Tony on. We're going to thank him. We're going to send him on his way, and we'll talk some local sports, some Utah, some BYU, some Jazz maybe. I don't know. I don't even know what to ask him about the Jazz. We had Gus Johnson on yesterday. Today we'll bring in Rob Stone. Rob Stone is the host of the Big 12 Roundtable that features Urban and Brady Quinn and Matt Leinart. Rob's a great dude. Spent some time in our market. Really excited to catch up with him. It's our weekly hit with Kyle Bonagura. We'll go across the entire college football landscape with Kyle. And then my rundown says Dave Fox. So we have 3 good guests in Dave Fox today is what you're saying.
Yes.
Hello, Porter. How are you, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
It's a big week, isn't it? You can kind of feel it around the city.
Yeah, I think a lot of Utah fans are ready for football already. You can feel it. Luckily, we have an early kickoff, so you don't have to wait. Hopefully everyone's ready for the early one on Saturday. As you mentioned, if you're on campus, they're already kind of setting up for a game day atmosphere with the big noon kickoff. So yeah, man, we kind of already feel it, and it's a top 20 matchup with already early this early in the season, legitimate Big 12 late season implications. So we're looking forward to it.
Do some picks later on in the show before we say goodnight at 6 o'clock to get you guys rolling into the weekend, kind of. Tomorrow, of course, obviously Friday, so we'll get you ready for the weekend. Our first guest on this Thursday afternoon will be the aforementioned Tony Jones. But before TJ stops by, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends too at Prize Picks on this Thursday afternoon, it is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is hooking you up this year for the start of the pro football slate. Number one, they're giving you free money, which you should always take if you have the opportunity to go do that. Number two, they've started what they're calling max discounts this year. The max discounts so far have all hit because they're obviously very easy. The max discount this week is Patrick Mahomes' 0.5 passing yards. Kansas City Chiefs off to a horrible start to the season, but my guess is Mahomes will throw for 1 yard. I think you can take that to the bank. So what you should do is you should go get the free money from our friends at Prize Picks and then utilize the max discount. You combine that with one other correct pick, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. Now, this is a different kind of way to go about it as opposed to a sports book or what have you. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win cash. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. It is good to be right. All right, inching closer and closer to kick. It is a massive, massive weekend in the world of college football here locally at Rice-Eccles Stadium, where the University of Utah will welcome in Texas Tech. The Utes are the 16th ranked team in the country. Texas Tech is 17. Bettors are not touching this line. It has not moved at all. And according to where we're at right now, it still is a 3.5-point line in favor of the Utes. So most people that do this for a living, try to make money betting on sports, are not even touching this line. As we have referenced, Vegas usually builds in 3 points for the home team. So what Vegas is telling you, if this was a neutral field game, it would essentially and virtually be a pick'em between these two teams that both come in clean at 3-0 after beating up on inferior opponents. It's been interesting listening to both coaches essentially admit that. And also the analysts that we've had on throughout the course of this week, and I'm sure the analysts that we'll have on today, openly admit that no one is really sure just how good either of these two teams are. Now, the Baron Morton kid had a really good year last year. Texas Tech is number one in the country on offense in a ton of different categories, including points per game. And the Morton kid is off to an incredible start to the season. 11 touchdowns, 1 pick. His QBR is 208.4. Completing 70% of his passes. He's already almost at 1,000 yards after 3 games against 3 inferior opponents. Devin's numbers also very good. Better completion rate, 73%. No picks, 7 touchdowns. His QBR is lower at 158.3, and Devin is a much better rusher than the Morton kid is. 33 carries, which is 3 behind Nakari for the team lead. Already 198 yards. He's averaging 6 yards per carry and has 1 rushing touchdown as well. So 2 really good quarterbacks, what it comes down to. And when you look at the numbers for both teams through these 3 games where they've just dump trucked pretty bad football teams, Utah is the 8th ranked defense in the country, the 14th ranked offense in the country. Devin is 2nd in the Big 12 in completion percentage, and he's 12th in the country in completion percentage. But as we talked about, the interesting thing about the way Texas Tech has gone about their business is Cody Campbell, their billionaire oil tycoon donor, as the story goes, with our good friends at The Athletic, who did a deep dive into the offseason that Texas Tech clearly won, at least on paper, is that Cody was watching his alma mater seeing high-powered offenses and quarterbacks and teams that could score points and put up big yards, and realized that they were being beaten in the trenches. That's where they were losing football games. Urban Meyer discussed this earlier today on a number of different hits he was doing as he is in town with Fox. So they bring in the Romello Height kid. They bring in the David Bailey kid. These are two defensive ends off the edge that are absolute beasts. When you look at the tape that's out there right now, as far as what Texas Tech has been able to do so far. Now, again, they've played inferior competition, so I'm not going to go too far, but they look like men playing boys, and in a way that's kind of what it's been. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State, due respect. We use the term bar bouncers because I was watching the Cal Poly game, the Utah Cal Poly game, and Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomo just looked like they were picking smaller dudes up and throwing them out of a bar. This will be where this game comes down to, in my estimation. Whether or not Utah's offensive line, considered one of the best, if not the best in the Big 12, and if not one of the best in the country, Spencer and Caleb will have their hands full with Romello Height and David Bailey, these defensive ends that have caused havoc so far for their opposition. Now, Joel Klatt, who will be on the call for Fox Big Noon alongside friend of the program, Gus Johnson, made a point today that where Utah could potentially be vulnerable is if they get a little aggressive on the outside with their press man coverage, where Coy Eakin, they call him Cowboy Coy, he's a slot wide receiver, Terrence Carter Jr., who is a tight end they grabbed from the transfer portal. They've got a bunch of different weapons. They already have 4 wide receivers, double-digit catches. They've been able to – the Baron Morton kid has found, I believe, 7 different targets for touchdowns so far on the outside. They've got burners. They've got the Coy kid, again, is more of a slot wide receiver. He's not as fast as some of the guys on the outside. The Caleb Douglas kid, the Jacoby Williams kid. Reggie Virgil can really fly. There will be big play potential for Texas Tech, predicated on how aggressive Morgan wants to be as the defensive coordinator, and Morgan has a reputation of being very, very aggressive on the outside. But it does feel like this comes down to the battle between the 2 tackles for Utah and the 2 defensive ends for Texas Tech. And as I talked to Sean about this during Crosstalk, if this entire narrative about Cody Campbell wanting to go into his pockets to improve the trenches, they also brought in 3 offensive linemen in the transfer portal. If this is what they are trying to do, this is proof of concept year 1 for Tech trying to become a big physical football team. The problem is, if you're a Texas Tech fan, this is year 21 for Kyle Whittingham and his proof of concept that already is proven. There's nothing left to prove as far as the way Utah football plays under Coach Witt. So Tech, their high-powered offense, certainly something to watch out for. But when it comes to what they're apparently trying to build, it's year 1 of this building process with these new points of emphasis to make sure your O-line and your D-line are where they need to be. And we know that that's Kyle's MO, and it always has been. We'll give you our picks later on in the show. Again, based off of what we've seen so far from both teams and the inferior competition, I feel the same way about both of them. They both have looked awesome. Both Utah and Texas Tech have looked awesome. And if there was a little more action on the line, I might feel a little bit more comfortable as far as Utah's ability to go win this thing. Of course, home field advantage. So much has been made about the early kick, and I get it. It is a difficult dynamic. E.J. Manuel today said the last time he played a football game with a 10 a.m. kickoff was Pop Warner football. It just doesn't happen all that much. But Texas Tech has to travel a time zone. They're going to be staying in a hotel. The Utah football players will be able to sleep at home. And yes, they might have to eat breakfast earlier. I don't know that that's a huge deal. But this is going to be a massive day. And we know that in the past, a couple of massive days, whether it's College Game Day, Pat McAfee did a show up on campus. Unfortunately, have not gone Utah's way in the past with TCU and Oregon. But hopefully the narrative this time around is a little bit different. All right, real quick, the line for BYU East Carolina has moved today twice towards East Carolina. As we sit here today, East Carolina is a 6.5-point underdog. BYU is still favored on the road. Now, again, the dynamic of your home team getting 3 points built in indicates odds makers believe on a neutral field, BYU is about 4 points better than East Carolina, which is surprising to me. Has to be questions about Bear Bachmeier hitting the road for the first time, BYU as a team hitting the road for the first time. Now, they passed their first 2 tests against Portland State. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Potentially the worst college football team I've ever seen in my life. We had Bo McNally on, former Stanford Cardinal, to kind of give us the state of the landscape right now with Stanford, a program where Andrew Luck has been hired as the general manager to try to get this thing turned around and going in the right direction. So, again, it's just another one of these things where I feel like BYU has looked really good. Obviously, defensively, I don't care how many, when it comes to the level of competition, if you've only given up 3 points through 2 games, you're doing something right. East Carolina has smoked Coastal and then curb stomped Campbell, and they went on the road and gave NC State all NC State wanted in their stadium. So I think BYU wins the game. I don't know that you should be all that concerned about the outcome of what we could potentially see. But ultimately, when the line has moved a couple of different times in the direction of the home team, and it's not that big of a spread, this might be a more uncomfortable road trip for BYU than I thought it was going to be. But a big Saturday ahead in the world of college football. Porter will start his pregame coverage at 6 a.m. Is that correct?
That's accurate.
How do you feel about that?
I'm, if it were every week, not stoked, but it happens once or twice a year, every year. So I'm ready for it. It was at Colorado, I think, last time.
Okay. Tell me what you make of the – I heard it 4 different times where it's like, well, they're going to have to get up and eat breakfast at like 7 a.m. Don't most people eat breakfast at like 6:30 or 7? I feel like people are making a lot of like when they're going to be eating breakfast prior to the game.
And Kyle talked about this on the Coach's Show. If you guys missed it, it's, of course, available, ESPN700sports.com, or your podcast catcher, that we're making too big a deal about it. He gets his guys up early on road trips anyway. It's part of their routine. They're going to be well fed. They're going to be ready to go with more than enough time before kickoff. And Kyle, I'll paraphrase because I don't want to say a direct quote. He said that's Bill and us and media and people on Twitter making more a deal of it. The early kickoff is not going to affect the football team.
Tell me where you're at right now with your confidence level that this game, with the attention surrounding it and a national platform broadcast, will be different than the last couple of times that the eyes of the college football world have been upon us.
Nerves are always, you can't really predict it. They're not measurable, at least as far as, week to week. You never really know how it's going to hit. This team hasn't played on a big stage. The Rose Bowl, let's be honest, that wasn't really a big stage based on the atmosphere and the team you were playing. So we'll find that out. We'll find that out on Saturday. And, I don't think that the trend is also as much of a deal as we talk about it, right? Their record, I think, is like 500 in some of these primetime games, which, you would expect them to be above 500. But at the same time, when you have a primetime game, that means one of the best teams in the country is coming to play you. You're not going to win every one of those games. It's kind of just as simple as that. I think it's more just about the scheme. It's more about this offensive line of the Utes, who you've talked about, are bouncers, and this defensive line of Texas Tech, who they went out and essentially bought some of the best defensive linemen in the country. They have 4 of PFF's top 4 pass rushers and interior D linemen, the top 10 of their interior D linemen. So it's, I think the game, to simplify as much as we can, comes down to that more so than any of the nerves going in. I think they shake those off pretty early once kickoff goes.
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying this today and throughout the course of our coverage. This comes down to me, a team that is trying to prove a concept in Texas Tech to a team that has proof of concept in Utah. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
The way you worded it's perfect, because it's true, right? This is a different space that we're in this world of college football, and you have a guy who played on the interior, right? Is a booster in Texas Tech now. He knows where the money is really made when it comes to winning a football game. And not winning a game, you can win a game or two. You can get through non-conference play with a bunch of really good skill position players and some really good play calling. But when it's week 8, week 9, week 10, you guys are getting worn down. Your roster's getting a little thinner. If you still have that interior, that foundation, you're going to be able to compete. And Mr. Campbell, is that his name?
Cody Campbell, yes. What did you call him yesterday?
I can't remember.
Craig Christensen or something?
Something.
It was 2 C's.
Something else.
Yeah.
He knows that, right? He's played the position there. I don't know, his involvement there, but he clearly has some of the money involvement there. Mm-hmm. And they went out and got guys that are going to make a difference on the inside, as well as some good skill position guys. So I think that is, as you mentioned, going to be the big X factor in the game. And yeah, Kyle's been doing it for 20 years. So it is a little bit of an interesting dynamic between the two.
So get up bright and early with Porter and a cast of Utah players. Jordan Wynn's the only one agreed to get up at 6.
Andy Phillips too.
You know what? That also
tracks. We got to talk a little kicking.
That also tracks. Yeah. Andy's the type of guy that would get up at 6. So is Jordan.
Yeah.
Trevor may or may not. Trevor may not sleep the night before. He might just be up at 6.
He might just waltz in the studio.
Yeah, you never
So
know.
he might be on the show as well.
So get up bright and early with Porter. If you're at the tailgate, please come by the ESPN 700 VIP tailgate tent. I'm going to roll over there prior to kick and kind of get a feel for what everything is feeling like. And then obviously stay tuned for Bill and Scott and Sly as Utah Texas Tech is right around the corner, man. It's been a fun week, and we'll continue our coverage. We'll catch a quick break. Our first guest on the other side, Tony Jones. It'll be sad to say goodbye. Rob Stone, Kyle Bonagura, Dave Fox. Busy Thursday show. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. Bye to our guy. After 17 years in Salt Lake City, Tony Jones has left us for the Philadelphia 76er beat for The Athletic. TJ, happy Thursday, man. How you doing?
You remember Jerry Maguire when Rod Tidwell got the contract?
There we go.
I'm not going to cry,
Roy. Did I invoke even a little bit of emotion? Even a little bit?
You know what's funny about what you just you played? I mean, obviously you played. You played this, and it was funny. Me and Porter were just talking, behind the scenes, and he was like, "Yeah, we're still going to use you a lot. So y'all got to pick a lane. Either this is like goodbye, or you're still going to use me during the season. Like, what are we doing here?"
No, we're going to, but after 17 years in Utah, you have relocated, buddy. So even though we're going to have you on the show, I'm not going to see you at games, or no one's going to see you around town. So we're heavy-hearted over here, dude. Tell me how you're doing.
I'm good. It's bittersweet. I mean, obviously, this, covering the Philadelphia 76ers is a tremendous opportunity. You can go on and on about, the tradition of the franchise and just how much the Sixers mean to the Philly market, as do every one of their sports teams. But yeah, I'm really going to miss Utah, and I already miss Utah. Like you said, I spent 17 years there. I started as a high school writer, and my 16-year-old daughter was born the day of Alta Bingham. She was born early that afternoon. I mean, she was born early that morning, like 6 o'clock that morning. It was August 28th, 2009. She was born 6 o'clock that morning. My editors, Jim Shortermeyer and Michael Anastasi, because I was supposed to cover that game that night, they were like, "No, you're not covering the game." I left the hospital. I left Intermountain Hospital to go and cover the game. And then when I got back to the hospital, my wife and her entire side of the family were just so upset at me because I left to go cover Alta Bingham, and that's how much, covering Alta Bingham meant to me at the time. Now, let me be clear. My daughter was already 13 hours old at the time. So I had already had a lot of time to hold her or whatever. But still, I left the day of my daughter's birth to go in and cover a high school football game. And, it's just memories like that that kind of get you when, it gets to a point where you have no choice but to leave.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity for you. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you, and I know you're going to go kill it there. Tony, it's a big week around here, and for a while you covered college football, and, of course, you did that as a pro as well. I don't know how much Texas Tech you've watched. I mean, hell, I don't know how much Utah you've watched. They both beat up on three really bad teams so far, but we got a top 20 matchup, Big 12 style. Fox Big Noon kickoff here. Gus Johnson hopped on the show yesterday. It was great. We're going to bring in Rob Stone coming up in about 25 minutes. I just wonder, from your vantage point, being here for as long as you were, how you've seen our college football culture grow and your thoughts on what we could see potentially coming up on Saturday morning at 10 a.m.
Well, I mean, when I first moved there, University of Utah and BYU, they were in the Mountain West Conference. And when I first started covering Utah State University, they were in the WAC conference. I covered Utah State University when Brent Guy was there. I covered his firing, and I covered the Gary Anderson era, which was one of my favorite eras as a reporter ever. I got to cover Robert Turbin, and I got to cover Bobby Wagner. And then, when I went to the University of Utah, I got to cover, great players there. I got to cover Dennis Erickson, who obviously, from Miami fame. So it was like I got to off the record, pick his brain about, the Miami days. I got to, be at training camp, a camp when, Whit used to pull up in his bike. I don't know if he still pulls up in his bike, but, is that stuff, and then like the Monday morning press conference at the University of Utah, I would cover that. And then I would go to the cafeteria where the football players ate, and I would, get a grilled cheese sandwich and some fries, and I would swear that it was the greatest food ever while I wrote my story. So those were, memories that I really had of covering football, and, covering Larry Krystkowiak and DeLon Wright, and, I covered the last good University of Utah basketball team. So, all of those memories are stuff that I hold dear. I think that for Texas Tech and for Utah, I think this week, they're going to find out whether they're any good or not. Not any good, but, they're going to find out a lot about themselves, and I think, the competition factor for both are going to ratchet up. It's going to be really interesting for the University of Utah to play against a team that actually has a functional offense, because they haven't seen that yet. So it's going to be a really good challenge for that defense and that defensive line and those defensive backs, especially. They lost a pretty good cornerback last week. I forgot his name, to a season-ending injury, I believe. And it's going to be, a real challenge for Devin Dampier and that backfield to see what they're made of. And it's going to be a real challenge for the wide receiver room, because I have not been impressed with Utah's wide receiver room in the first 3 weeks of the season. So we're going to see if, those guys can create separation against an actual defensive backfield that knows what it's doing.
Dadrian Zipper, wide receiver, out for the season. The player you were referencing, Rabbit Evans, a safety, out for the season as well.
Yeah, Rabbit Evans.
Yeah. After he had battled back from an injury, poor guy. Hopefully he'll redshirt and come back. Let me hone in on Devin Dampier, Tonin, what you've seen from him so far. We've seen a lot of transfer quarterbacks and new quarterbacks struggle. And to me, the best piece of news about Devin is that he hit the ground running. Now, he has not faced a Big 12 team. He has not faced UCLA stinks, and, they fired their coach. But so far, dynamic, electric, composed. Everybody up there just goes on and on and on about what kind of kid he is. And we interviewed him during Big 12 Media Days. He joins Sean's show once a week, so we're lucky to have him on our station. But just from a playmaking standpoint, what do you think of Utah's new quarterback?
So, I was very complimentary of him, much to the chagrin of BYU fans in Game 1 against UCLA. And he makes the right read. He's accurate. He's quick to come out with the football. He really, really knows the offense, which should be expected, because that's, it's the same offense he ran last year in New Mexico. But, he's a fast and elusive guy who also functions well in the pocket. And when I say that, I'm going to say he functions well in the pocket, for about the first 3 games that we've seen. Obviously the competition is going to ratchet up 3 or 4-fold right now. But, he's got some Jaden Daniels in him, which is, an elusive guy who's hard to bring down, who can get out and make plays on the run, make plays on the edges, get out of the backfield, scramble for first downs, but can also function inside of a pocket. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens against Texas Tech. A lot is going to be on his arm. A lot is going to be on his legs. And if, like I said, if that wide receiver room plays like it played last week against Wyoming, there are going to be some issues, because I didn't think the wide receiver room, created separation. I didn't think that they were able to take the top off the defense, especially in the first half. So they're going to have to, do some things to stretch the field, do some things to get open, so that Devin's not, Devin's not limited to, dink and dunk and intermediate routes and checkdowns. So it's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be a really interesting chess match. I do think that it's an advantage that Utah is going to get them in Rice Eccles. So it should be a really raucous atmosphere. Interesting that it's going to be a 10 a.m. start. So, that's going to be really interesting, and the tailgating is going to have to start really early. But I expect nothing less from Utah fans. They're going to be ready.
16 carries for Devin against UCLA, only 4 against Cal Poly because they boat raced Cal Poly. 13 against Wyoming, and he took some shots. That Wyoming team was ready, and they played physical. They played well in the first half. Generally speaking, Tone, how many carries should we be hoping for Devin? Because we've got to keep him upright. Like, the point of emphasis, and of obviously the PTSD we all have around here with the injuries that Cameron suffered over and over and over, what number of carries do you feel like is right for Devin?
I feel like 13 is right. I feel like 16 is too much. Once you get up into that 16 to 20 range, to me, that's pushing it. With the amount of ball handling that the quarterback does in this offense, 13 probably sounds right, especially in the RPO game. Things like that. But it's like right on the edge of being right. I think 10 to 13 is probably, your ideal. That means you're definitely getting your running backs involved. That also means that, Devin's getting the ball out, which means that, your receivers are getting open, which is paramount, right? Like, your receivers have to get open in the RPO game. So if you go RPO, you see the defensive end crash, you fake it to the back, you get out on the edges, it's a good thing if he's out on the edges and he's throwing the ball down the field. That means your wide receivers are creating separation. And if he's running, that's not always a good thing, even if he picks up 5, 6, 7 yards, because like you said, those hits, they add up. Jaden Daniels is the quarterback of my favorite team. And, I am consistently worried that we're running him too much. And, not only that we're running him too much, but we're running him too much by design, right? Like, yeah, you want to get Jaden Daniels on the edge. Yes, he's tough to bring down, but, I want to use Deebo Samuel. I want to use Terry McLaurin. And that's what should be the goal for the University of Utah. You want to use your receivers. You want to use your tight ends. You want to use your running backs. And, it's easy to take a dynamic talent like Devin Dampier and say, okay, we're going to, throw him 30 to 35 times. We're going to run him 16 to 20 times. It's easy to do that, and it's easy to fall into that kind of trap, but you don't really want to do that. Ideally, you want to spread the wealth around.
Interesting dynamic occurring in the early portion of the college football calendar. Oklahoma hires Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer from Washington State. Vanderbilt grabs Tim Beck and Diego Pavia from New Mexico State. Michigan State hires Brian Lindgren and Aiden Childs from Oregon State. And Utah grabs Devin Dampier and Jason Beck from New Mexico. All 4 teams are 3-0, and all offenses are ticking. Do you think this is a trend that we're going to see, a quarterback OC combo, leaving maybe a smaller school and joining together in a transfer portal type situation?
Yeah, because when Witt was recruiting Devin Dampier, you also want to recruit the OC. You don't want him to have to play for a new OC and to have to learn a new playbook and things like that. I'll believe it when I see it with Michigan State. I think Vanderbilt is real. I'll believe it when I see it with Michigan State, though, especially with that quarterback. I'm not, I think he's good with his legs. I don't think he's good with his arms. So we'll wait and see when they actually play somebody. Vanderbilt got a really, really good win against South Carolina last week. But yeah, you want, if you're Utah and you're recruiting a Devin Dampier from New Mexico, the last thing you want him to do is to have a learning curve of 3 or 4 games. You want him to hit the ground running, and that's why you also go and get the OC. Now the thing about it was Jason Beck was one of the best OCs west of the Mississippi last year, and everybody knows it. And I think he's going to end up being a head coach one day. That was a no-brainer. Like, yeah, of course we want Devin Dampier, and of course we want Jason Beck, and especially off of the offensive coordinator that the University of Utah has had in the past few years, and that offense that we saw last year, quarterback play notwithstanding. So, I think that is definitely a trend, just because you want continuity and you want familiarity with the playbook. It's tough to learn a new playbook, and it's tough for some quarterbacks to do it year after year, like actually some quarterbacks have to do. So, to me, it was a no-brainer.
Wanted to ask you this. There, obviously, with Big Noon in town, Fox in town, Coach Witt has been on several national platforms throughout the course of the week, and he's been asked the similar questions by all the hosts. And the one consistent question is, why did you come back? And what do you think about leaving the program to Morgan Scalley when you decide to step down? Sean O'Connell, our very own Sean O'Connell, hosts our midday show, and others have said out loud that they have been told that this is the last dance for Kyle. I don't know if it is. I have no inside information there. He obviously takes great care of himself, does not look like he's aging, looks like and sounds like he has plenty of energy. He has a really good program, and I think he has a few more years under contract. So I have no idea if this is it. But if it is, Tony, you've got to know Morgan over the years. An interesting dynamic in the landscape of college football is Texas Tech rolls in, having spent $55 million, according to your outlet, The Athletic, in NIL funds to bring in all these transfers. I don't fully know the current status of Utah's economic landscape, but I feel like it's healthy and probably growing. What do you make of the future of Utah football based off of all the dynamics I kind of just outlined if Kyle decides this is his last dance?
I love the covering Morgan Scalley, and he's always just been a bundle of energy. I've always thought that he's a genius as a coordinator. You obviously look at the defensive side of the ball, and year after year after year after year after year, he sends guys to the NFL. Those guys go to the league, and it's from all 3 levels. He sends linebackers to the NFL. He sends defensive linemen to the NFL. He sends guys from the back 4 to the NFL. So, you have to respect him immensely as a coach and a recruiter. And I think that, if this is the last dance for Kyle, I think that the program is going to be fine in terms of what the infrastructure rollover is going to be from Kyle to Morgan. I think Morgan will do, like anybody else, I think Morgan will do some things his way. And, if we remember 20 years ago, Kyle did some things his way when he took over from Urban Meyer. But, I think that the culture has been the same at the University of Utah for over 20 years, starting with Urban Meyer, rolling over to Kyle Whittingham, and when it rolls over to Morgan Scalley, and it rolled over to Gary Anderson when Gary Anderson took the job at Utah State. That kind of culture rolled over, and it's a culture of toughness, it's a culture of accountability, and it's a culture of leadership. So, I think that Morgan is going to be just fine. He's had, he's had actual years as the head coach in waiting, so it's he's had years to figure out what he would do once he actually takes over the program. And I think once he does, he's going to implement what he does, and the Utes are going to be fine.
BYU is on the road for the first time this year, and an interesting trend manifested earlier today with the line. It moved twice towards the direction of East Carolina. BYU right now is a 6.5-point favorite. East Carolina has a couple wins where they've curb stomped some bad teams. They went on the road to give NC State all they wanted. BYU's clean through two, and, we had Kalani on a couple weeks ago. I know you covered Kalani for a number of years. And I asked him a question about building BYU's culture over the past 10 years. This is year 11 for Kalani, which is wild to me. And he was very humble and really gave Kyle a lot of credit. And as obviously Lavelle as well, since he played for Lavelle Edwards. But before I set you loose, just your thoughts on where we find ourselves with BYU after 2 games and what could potentially be kind of a tricky road trip, apparently, with East Carolina.
Did you say Kalani's in year 11?
I know, right? Isn't that wild? This is his it's the 11th year. Yeah, as a head coach.
At BYU?
Yes, sir.
No way.
That's wild.
That is wild. It seems like year 6.
Yeah, I agree.
At most.
I agree.
And I should have, in that soliloquy of the last question that I asked in terms of culture setters, I should have included Kalani with Gary Anderson there because, obviously I covered Kalani at University of Utah as well. And I don't know what to make of BYU. Just, and I don't know what to make of Utah. Like I said, we're going to find out a lot. It's a true road game, and that's the test, right? Like BYU's a better team than East Carolina, but it's a true road game. And, true road games are often tricky, especially with a freshman quarterback. I love BYU's running back room. I think that's one of the better running back rooms in the country, especially that we don't talk about. And I love BYU's defense. I think that's one of the best defenses in the country, and whether people talk about it or not. So, defense travels, running game travels. Even with a freshman quarterback, I want to see, what Bear has, when, there's a game that's on his arm, that you have to go out and win. But, with those running backs, with Chase, out wide, I think he's going to play in the NFL, and I think he's going to play in the NFL for a long time. With that defense, I think that BYU is the better team, and I think that they should be fine. But like you said, obviously, true road games are, they can be tricky, especially against a team that's not going to be scared. And East Carolina's not going to be scared of BYU because, like you said, they went on the road and they gave NC State all they wanted. And NC State's quarterback is a potential number 1 pick in the NFL draft one of these next 2 or 3 years. Mark my words on that. He's going to go top 5, top 10 at least, and he might go number 1. So NC State is actually pretty good. So it'll be interesting to see how BYU reacts to playing on the road. But I think they should be fine if they do the things they're supposed to do.
All right, TJ. Well, we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk ball coming up, but I appreciate the insight today. We love you, bud. We'll miss you, but congratulations, and we'll chat soon, okay?
And now I'm crying.
Oh, man. See, I got him. Told you I'd get him, and we got him. Okay, Tone, be good, buddy, okay?
Thanks, my guy. I appreciate you.
All right. Tony Jones, 17 years in the market, and he has left us for Philly, but to Porter's point, we'll use him during basketball season to talk some NBA when the time is right. Want to let you know, with IFA's Step 4 fall and winter lawn food, you'll get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More at your local IFA or at ifa.coop. All right, coming up next, the host of the Roundtable for Fox Sports Big Noon. It's Rob Stone on the program on this Thursday. Keep it here on ESPN 700. It's a big week, man. You can feel it around town. Live up on campus now. Took the dog on a walk across campus. Fox Big Noon kickoff setting up. Rice Eccles looks beautiful. Porter, are you ready for a couple of proud Sigma Chi's to break down a little college football?
Isn't that who's supposed to be?
Absolutely.
I feel a little excluded.
Well, maybe we can make you an honorary, but Rob Stone, proud Sigma Chi, Colgate University, I believe, if I remember correctly, and I'm a Beta Ep from the University of Utah, and Rob joins the program on a Thursday. Rob, happy Thursday, sir. How are you? Did Rob hang up after? Did Rob? Maybe Rob didn't want me to identify him as a proud Sig. What happened to Rob?
No, I said en hoc, but then I noticed I was on mute. So I'm back. It's only Thursday. I'm pacing myself.
All good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm about to be better. Can't wait to get to Salt Lake. The whole team is really excited for this top 20 matchup, and I think the Big 12 is excited for it, and it sounds like the Utah fan base is excited for it as well. So we are really excited to get there. I know Urban's already in town, and he's been juiced for this for a while, and he's been pushing the Utah agenda for a while, and finally we get Coach back in Salt Lake City. So we're excited for that too.
Urban's been rolling around town in a Utah quarter zip and doing some appearance wearing some Utah gear, so he's ready to roll.
He has a quarter zip?
He does.
Wow, that's a newsflash to me.
Yeah, does he ever wear anything else is the question.
Golf shirts and quarter zips, that's all he's got in that closet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, it's a big week around here. You can feel it. Like I said, I was walking the dog around campus today, and everybody's really juiced. So ultimately, Rob, the question comes down to this, right? Like, how good are these teams? I'm not sure anybody knows. We've been breaking it down, quite frankly, for a few weeks because the non-con schedule for both Tech and Utah hasn't been all that strong. Do you have a feel for how good either of these two teams are, quite frankly?
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. I think Saturday's going to be a big learning lesson for a lot of people, and for the Big 12 as well. I think we're still trying to figure out what the Big 12 is. I've been bullish on the Big 12 for a while, and I really think the trajectory of this conference is going in the right direction. And I think with Notre Dame's struggles this year and the cast of current unbeatens and recognizable programs in the Big 12, I think the conference has a real legit chance to get two teams into the college football playoffs. It's going to be a stretch. It's going to be hard work, but I think there is that opportunity. And I love the fact that, Utah pounding on UCLA so early, say what you will about UCLA, gave them some immediate respect and shot them up into the rankings. And that's what you kind of need right now. You need that national recognition. And then Texas Tech spending that $28+ million. Only Texas has outspent them this year, and now they're sitting at 17. They've always got the offense. Do they have the defense that could kind of support it? It looks like it right now. And then the Utah offense, and the struggles last year at quarterback and the 5-7 record, it looks like for now that they've sorted things out. But to your point, I think it's just going to be a big Saturday wait and see, right? Like everybody just sit down and then let's talk after this game Saturday and really where these two programs are. And I think also where the conference is.
I was discussing this earlier. Joel Klatt, of course, the analyst on your broadcast, released a pod earlier where he did a fantastic breakdown. And Joel might be in a category all by himself when it comes to his ability to break this stuff down. And the way I kind of view this, Rob, is Texas Tech is trying to prove a concept while Utah has proof of concept when it comes to the battle in the trenches. Now, this Romulo Height kid and the David Bailey kid, their two transfer defensive ends, are absolute beasts. And watching them go up against Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu is going to be a phenomenal TV show, quite frankly, where your eyes are going to go to the trenches. But if Tech is trying to establish a culture of being stout on the line, Utah has had that culture for 21 years. But what do you make of what we could see between the O-line and the D-line?
Yeah, well, Fano and Lomu, I talked with Todd Boucher this week. He thinks they're not just first-round picks, they're top 20 picks. Right, and both 6'6", 308. All five of the offensive line starters returned this year for Utah. So yeah, they've been getting that right for years now. And I think what you're seeing is Texas Tech is saying, well, we've been able to sling the ball all over the field for a decade plus. We need to be able to run the ball a little bit. We need to be able to do some protection, and they have spent a lot of money, whether it's recruiting or in the transfer portal to beef up that offensive line, and that continues. They just had a big signing the other day as well. So I feel like Joey McGuire and the folks in Lubbock have realized, we've got an offense that has been labeled as gimmicky. Now we need to beef up a little bit, whether that's on the offensive line or the defensive side. as well. And the D certainly appears to be better. Again, say what you will about the competition, but they pounded Oregon State. They're only allowing 41 yards rushing a game. That's tied for second in the nation. They've held all three opponents under 65 yards rushing. So early on, the indication is that Texas Tech maybe is following a little bit of Utah's recipe of like, hey, let's get in those trenches. Let's spend the money there. Let's get the beef. Let's get the bulk in there. And maybe that's how we get ourselves to the college football playoffs. I think it's fascinating. Utah's going to have to start spending now, right? Because if Texas Tech is going to keep this $28 million spending spree going year in and year out, and by the way, oil and gas will still be happening, and that's still going to be coming into that campus in Lubbock. They're going to spend, and Texas Tech, I really think, is on a trajectory to become I don't know about a playoff staple, but a playoff conversation staple. And I think Utah has always kind of been in that mix. Last year certainly was a big setback, and then I feel like Coach Whittingham has been, and I know it's not the deal, but it feels like he's been on like these one-year deals for like the last 4 or 5 years, right? Is this it? Is the song over this year? Is the song over this year? He's still got so much in the tank, and everything that he has done, and bringing in Jason Beck, I think kind of signal to a lot of people that like we need to do something different. We can't keep doing it exactly the same way that we've been doing it in Salt Lake City. We need to find a couple little tweaks, and I give them credit for doing that. So I think both of these teams are deserved top 20 teams, and win or lose, I hope they stay in the top 20, because I think when it's all said and done, these are top 20 programs, and I would even say let's start putting them up into the top 15.
You referenced the potential of the Big 12 getting 2 in the CFP, which would be a huge thing for this conference. And as you know, not too long ago, we were in the Pac-12 footprint, so we're all still adjusting to this new normal of, different travel footprints and different road trips. As of now, Rob, who do you feel, I'll just characterize it as tier 1 in the Big 12. Who do you think the top teams are in this conference as of today?
For sure. Well, it's the two that are going to meet Saturday in Salt Lake City, Utah, Texas Tech. I would also put in that group TCU, which is not getting enough attention. And Sonny Dykes is loving that. They got a huge game Saturday at home against their rival SMU, and Iowa State as well. Those to me are the big four. BYU, I don't know yet. I would like to know more. I know October 18th, Utah at BYU, we're going to learn a lot about what the Cougars are. But I think that it's 4 and then a lot of question marks. And I would even include Houston in that. Remember what a strong close to last season Houston had. And they've continued it early on right now. And they've, obviously in a fertile recruiting area and in an area that certainly can bolster the NIL budget for the Cougars as well. West Virginia with Rich Rod, early stumbles, but it looks like they might have figured some things out here as well. Again, I think the Big 12 is really good. You mentioned Colorado and what Dion is doing, and it's been muted this year for sure as he tries to figure out who his quarterback is. But it just kind of goes back to my point, Spence, that I think this is a conference on the rise. We get it. We know who the Big Ten and the SEC are. They are the big dogs in college football. We get it. But I think the Big 12 right now is really pushing the ACC, certainly on depth, top to bottom, for being that third best conference.
Chatting with Rob Stone. He's the host of Fox Sports Big Noon, the roundtable featuring former Utah head coach Urban Meyer, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, and others. Let me move over here, Rob. An interesting trend has taken place, and I want your thoughts on both Devin Dampier, the quarterback for Utah, and then the play caller, Jason Beck, who were together in New Mexico. But when you look at what's transpired so far, Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, Washington State, now at Oklahoma. Tim Beck, Diego Pavia, now they're at Vandy after New Mexico State. Michigan State grabbed Brian Lindgren, at Aiden Childs from Oregon State. All teams are 3-0. So give me your take on what you've seen as far as the comfortability between Devin and Jason. And is this a trend you think we'll see continue? Because obviously, again, I'll use the term, we have proof of concept.
Yeah. The trend that there's going to be a package deal of quarterback and offensive coordinators leaving and traveling together, I don't see that as a trend. I see that as maybe a bit more of an oddity, one that's certainly working out for Utah. But if the trend is big programs maybe not being so patient on their high school recruits at that position and instead going into the portal and letting somebody else season this quarterback and then we pluck them when they're ready, I think that is 100% a trend. And to your point, proof of concept is all over the country. You're seeing it right now, at Miami for the second straight year, right? You're getting that as well. I think there's a lot more hesitation is the right word, but I think because of what this industry is and these coaches every season are fighting for their program and fighting for a contract extension and or fighting to not be fired, you have to be settled at quarterback. You have to have a proven player. You can't roll into the season going, it could be this guy, it could be that guy, who knows, maybe that guy. That's what's happening in Colorado right now, and it's stinging them. So I think you're going to see more and more of these programs, and you're seeing it obviously in Utah, going out and getting these guys who have succeeded at a high level at a quote-unquote lower-tier program and sliding them right in, because I think it's just less coaching, less apprehension, less worrisome. And frankly, you let somebody else do the dirty work, and then you reap the benefits down the road. But clearly, the move for Beck and Dampier has been, what a coup. I know Yahoo Sports had a great article about the two of them, and Dampier telling Beck, I think I'm gonna throw myself in the transfer portal, and Beck is like, I was kind of thinking about doing the same thing for us and offensive coordinators. How about we find a place where we can go together and win? And Utah was just the perfect fit with everything that they had gone through with Cam Rising the last couple of years, and then certainly what transpired last year at that position and with that offense.
As you've kind of, oh, yeah, sorry about that. As you've kind of dug in on tape with Devin, what stands out most? You referenced the Cameron Rising situation. So every time Devin takes a hit, and he took a few against Wyoming, we all we flinch a little bit because we need 4 upright around here. But very dynamic kid. If you talk to people up at Utah, like I know you have, they just they go on and on about his leadership and the just type of person he is as well. What stands out most to you, Rob?
Well, we're going to talk about him on Big Noon Kickoff for sure. And I know Matt Leinart has been digging into the tape, and he has some thoughts. I think it kind of goes back to the opening point that we've been making about these two teams and this conference as well. Is we'll know a lot more on Saturday. He's proven that he's got the wheels, but what can he do when the stress level is elevated? What can he do when the defense is a little bit stronger and a little bit faster? Does he have the patience in the pocket to stick with the play call? Is that tendency to run out of the pocket and freelance going to hurt him, or is that just who he is and lean into it and own it? So I know Matt has. Listen, I got a Heisman winning quarterback, right? I'm going to let him do the analysis on Dampier, and I'm going to listen to that and take that in more than what my nickel and dime thoughts are on that quarterback. But all indications are that this is a guy that is in the right place. And seems to be a right fit for this program and is certainly leading Utah in the right direction.
So let me move over here. I've found this conversation a little bit comical. I think most normal people eat breakfast at like 7 or 7:30, but it feels like with an early kick out here, everybody's talking about what a 10 a.m. kick can do to a team. And we, as you know, we're the flagship home of the Utes, so we have Coach Witt's Coach's Show every week. And last night he was kind of mocking the conversation as well. But you do this all the time. What sort of complications, if any, have you seen for teams kicking off this early, and certainly a team like Tech that has to travel a time zone?
Yeah, the only complications that are out there are just kind of the schedule complications, right? And the coaching staff are so well aware of it that they take care of it weeks in advance. And they know, hey, once we're done this Saturday, boom, we're immediately going to swing to a whatever it is, a mountain time zone or a central time zone. We had Oregon at Northwestern last week, and the first day of practices, the guys were up at, I think it was 5 in the morning and at the facility at 6 in the morning and training and ready to go to acclimate themselves to what kickoff time in the central time zone would really be like. These are young men. They're adaptable. They figure it out. Listen, they're not like my high school kids where I have to call them downstairs like, are you going to pick up today? Are you going to make school? Like, these guys did it. They know what's going on. I think the only concern is, and it won't be one at Utah, is if it's early and if it's a sleepy environment. There will be no sleeping, right? We know what the muss is going to be bringing Saturday morning. So I wouldn't worry if I was Texas Tech that they're not going to be up in time for this one, because Texas Tech knows that they've been gifted a top 20 game on the national stage, and they are going to be given a 2-hour infomercial, as is Utah. And all the noise that's been around Texas Tech and what they're doing and what they've spent and what their hopes and dreams are, they need to prove proof of concept, to your point again, Spence, that it's really working in Lubbock. So I don't think Texas Tech is going to be sleepy on this one. I think if anything, Coach is probably going to have to ramp them down a little bit. And Coach Witt knows exactly what's at stake for Utah. A chance to get to the Big 12 championship game. I think the Big 12 runs through either Lubbock or Salt Lake this year, and I don't think there's going to be any sleep on Saturday morning in Salt Lake.
I had a friend who, when he found out you were going to be on the show today, wanted me to ask you this question, and I think I think it'll be really interesting, Rob. I think our fan base out here, our listenership, would be interested in the process that goes into where you guys decide to be for this broadcast. How does it work? What do you guys look at before you decide where you're heading?
Yeah, listen, that's above my pay grade. We can chime in and we can chirp in and we can kind of look at the schedule and see where things play out. What the Big Noon kickoff concept is, we're a 2-hour pregame show that talks about college football as a whole, but we're certainly there to promote what's coming up next on our air. So that means it's going to be Big 10 or it's going to be Big 12, right? Those are the games that we air. And then, a lot of it depends on what the picks are that week. A lot of people may not realize, but our programming departments and our other programming networks, whether it's CBS or NBC or whatever, they basically have like a fantasy draft, and they draft weekends. They don't draft a game. They draft a weekend. So Fox has the top 3 picks, right? And every year that number 1 pick, they pick the weekend of Michigan, Ohio State, meaning they have first dibs on that game. So I don't know where this weekend was. I'll be honest with you. I think originally, if you talk to our programmers in June and July, they would have said, hey, we're going to go after that North Carolina game at UCF, and which, by the way, is the game that now follows you guys. But because of how Carolina started that season with that big loss to TCU in the Big 12, another Big 12 favorite, I think we shied away from that one and what that audience would bring, even though for us, it's nice to touch another conference, right? It would have been great to have Belichick and ACC and the North Carolina brand there, but it just, when you look at what that game is compared to what a top 20 Big 12 showdown is, I don't think it was much of a conversation. So these decisions happen above my pay grade. Sometimes we find out on Saturday, sometimes we find out on Sunday or Monday, but we always kind of have an idea where we're going. And I think certainly the fact that, Coach Meyer is going into the College Football Hall of Fame in December, and the fact that Utah is such a big part of his history and we've never been there, it just made this particular decision very easy.
And then I'm curious, Rob, as somebody who does something similar to what you do on a day-to-day basis, what your process is when it comes to being prepared with that dynamite dais that you have to kind of traverse and navigate through. And what's that like? When do you guys sit down? What's the preparation like for the show?
So preparation pretty much starts right after Saturday when we're done, when we're on a plane. And a lot of us, I'm based in LA, so a lot of us are in LA and we're all watching the games together. We're yelling and screaming. And we have big, ugly text chain that just like if you take a 15-minute nap on a plane and you wake up, you have like 75 messages about, random games going on in the SEC or the Big 12 or the Big 10. So our conversations are starting immediately Saturday with the games that are being played with an eye to what's happening next Saturday. Monday, we'll have a conference call with our producers to kind of fine-tune some thoughts and some themes. But I'll be honest with you, there'll be things that we find out Friday, maybe even Saturday, that are in or out. People that can make it, people that can't make it. Topics that suddenly come to light or suddenly go away. So it's a pretty fluid situation, but it starts as soon as we're done, to be honest with you. I'm an old school guy. I'm a notebook guy. I'm flipping the pages in my notebook and just, like my chicken scratch of Texas Tech notes and Michigan State, USC, and, North Carolina, Central Florida, or as Bill Belichick just calls them, Central, Michigan, Nebraska, all these things. I've just got it in my notepad. And just as I stumble across something that I think is interesting, creative, or a stat that could have a home at some point, or a quote, I just kind of jot it down in my notepad and I just kind of keep it going throughout the course of the week, whether that's post-game comments Saturday or Dabo, chiming to the Clemson faithful that, they want to send me on my way. I'm not going to stop them. I'm 55. I'll coach somewhere else and win. So I just kind of accumulate all these little quotes and these comments and these stats and these facts. And then eventually I just narrow them down and find the proper holes if they do exist in our 2-hour show.
I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one that is scribbling and scratching notes down anymore. I should have equity in whoever created the yellow pad, I'll tell you that much. But let me move over here. Dave Portnoy is coming to Utah, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. It is a new dynamic for you guys over there. What's it been like to kind of ingratiate him into your process?
He's been great. He's been very gracious and excited about the opportunity. We have not told him to do anything or not do anything. He is unabashedly himself, and we kind of stay out of his lane. Those guys over at Barstool probably have a little more rope than we would have to say and do certain things. Big Cat joined us for the second week last week as well, and these guys are just great. So much energy. They want to help the product. They see things from a different viewpoint as well. So it's been nice, and the college campuses and the communities respond to both of those personalities, Cat and Dave. And, listen, I'm a wrestling guy, so I understand the value of a heel. Not everybody has to be a babyface. Some people want to boo and yell and scream, and that makes them feel better. And Dave can certainly play that role in certain communities, as he did in week 1 in Columbus. And I think overall their addition has been good for our show, and I think ultimately good for college football.
Finally, Rob, before I set you loose, and as I ask this question, I just picture my listeners driving by and throwing rocks at the window with a studio, but I've got to ask you about the World Cup, which is in our region. And
why would people be throwing rocks at the studio if you're talking the World Cup? It's going to only be the biggest friggin' event this planet has ever held.
You definitely don't have.
They should be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they should be handing you confetti cupcakes that you're talking about soccer. Let's go. World Cup, man.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me, Rob, but
I know that.
it's a big week here for the Utes. So anything other than Utah football, the text line lights up. But I got to know, because obviously soccer guy, you've done World Cups for years. What's a realistic expectation for the U.S. men's national team this year? And attendant to the question, do you think our guy Diego Luna has locked down a spot?
He has locked down a spot. He's one of my favorite players.
Awesome.
On the U.S. men's national team. He is so much fun to watch. I want more Diego Lunas on the team. I want that swagger, that brashness, that desire, that want to go after you, to have a one-on-one confrontation. I friggin' love everything about Diego Luna, and I think he is a star in the making, and I think the American public is going to throw their arms around him this coming summer at the World Cup. As far as what the U.S. is going to do, listen, if they don't get out of their group, abject failure, burn it down, right? Like burn it all down and start from scratch. If we can't get out of our group with home field advantage, with being in the A pot for when the actual, brackets come out, the group stages are finally laid out in December in Washington, D.C., the top 2 teams in every group make it. A slew of third-place teams from the groups will make it as well. So, listen, there's no excuse at all for the U.S. to not get out of the group. If they don't, massive failure. For them to win a round of 32 game, again, I think the odds are okay. Getting past the round of 16 is super gravy. How about that? I think 16 is about as good as we can hope for.
Okay.
With this group of the U.S. team. But the beauty of these tournaments, like a March Madness, because this one will replicate more of a March Madness with the increased field of 48 nations. Somebody gets hot at the right time and gets a little magic and gets a little luck, you can make a run. So, why not the U.S.? But my expectations are tempered, and I think that's good because the U.S. plays better at the World Cup stage when they don't have a favorite label, when they are a dark horse, when they are an underdog, and they are clearly underdogs going into next summer.
Yes, sir. Well, Rob, thanks so much for the time. I know you're a busy guy. Safe travels out here and enjoy Salt Lake. It's going to be a beautiful, fun weekend, okay?
Appreciate it. Can't wait to see y'all.
All right. The great Rob Stone, the host of Fox Noon Kickoff. It's a 2-hour pregame show featuring former Utah head coach Urban Meyer. They always have Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, Mark Ingram joins them. They have the Barstool guys now, which is kind of an interesting wrinkle. Bruce Feldman. They do a phenomenal job. It's a very professional approach. They're setting up on campus right now, and I appreciate Rob's time. Just a couple of Sigma Chi's, Porter, just breaking down football. By the way, he's also from Simsbury, Connecticut. So
there you go.
Just a couple guys just chopping it up.
I like it. I like it.
Deal.
Got the breakdown.
They do a good job though. It's a really quality product.
And their broadcast, like during the game, you mentioned it, Klatt. Just so good at breaking it down as you're seeing it in front of you. That's what I really enjoy. That's what I probably like about their broadcast the best.
No doubt. Want to tell you about my friends at America First Credit Union. You can support your team with the official Utah Athletics Visa debit card, which is free with America First checking options. As the official credit union of Utah Athletics, America First can offer our members the exclusive Visa debit card along with all the perks that come with it. Check it out. An exclusive cardholder benefits include special ticket offers. As an America First member, you can score exclusive tickets and prices to Utah sporting events on Ticketmaster.com. This is the one I love. Early game day entry. You beat the crowd and you get into Rice-Eccles Stadium up to 2 hours prior to kickoff, 30 minutes sooner than the general public. Simply show a valid ticket and your America First Visa debit card to the security officers at Gate L in the southeast corner. The official credit union of U Athletics. Kyle Bonnegar is going to join us coming up in about 30 minutes. Dave Fox will be live in studio. Going to do a little sports court. Busy Thursday show. Beautiful day outside. Good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time, Thursday afternoon style, a little bit earlier than usual. We appreciate our good friends over at Handy and Handy being adjustable today. Garrett and Preston, gentlemen, happy Thursday. How are you?
Hey, Spence, how you doing?
Hi, Spence.
Doing well. It's a big week, as you guys know, so fun to have you on today. So let's start with the NCAA pickle resulting from the Diego Pavia antitrust case, a situation we have covered. What's the latest?
Yeah, Spencer, we tired about talking about these eligibility rules. You know, we talked about how antitrust was at play leading up to the House settlement. Now antitrust is the big keyword in all of the eligibility fights. So about a year ago, less than a year ago, we attacked this case where Diego Pavia, a guy who had played 2 years of junior college at New Mexico Military Institute, and then played another 2 years at New Mexico State, and then jumped to Vanderbilt. And his eligibility was being questioned based on the rule that the NCAA has that you have 5 years to play 4 years. Well, Diego Pavia, who was doing really well for Vanderbilt and was getting a pretty good chunk of NIL money, he filed a lawsuit against the NCAA claiming that it was violating antitrust. Well, the first thing he went to the NCAA to the court and said, hey, I need a preliminary injunction. This shouldn't be decided right now because I won't be able to play. So last year, the court granted his preliminary injunction, said, no, we're not going to decide this right now. You're going to be able to continue to play until we can decide this on its merits. Well, in the aftermath of this, guess what? There's been 30, we've talked about a number, but there's been 30 athletes who have challenged the NCAA based on this antitrust argument that they are entitled to more eligibility. And every one of them is unique. It's different than Diego's. And there's been wins and losses, different jurisdictions. Well, now what's happening is this hearing on this very issue for Diego is coming up. And the court originally kind of based their opinion on that the NCAA didn't have authority over junior college. So the eligibility he had in junior college didn't really count against his eligibility. So now we're coming up on this hearing now to actually decide the very issue of this. And the Court of Appeals looking at this, and they're saying, hey, here's the two issues we want decided. And incidentally, the NCAA has kind of been winning their lawsuits on these eligibility rules based on this issue of their claiming that antitrust is really an argument for commercial pursuits and it doesn't really apply to this situation. But the judge kind of says, these are labor laws and it kind of does apply to it and we need to decide it. So the two issues the judge wants decided by all the attorneys they want addressed are these two big issues. My screen blanked out here, but one of them is whether in fact the Diego case is actually moot. He's playing right now and they're saying, well, really, is this moot? He's been granted a waiver, and so do we really need to decide this? But the other thing they wanted to decide was, hey, how does the House settlement come into this? How does it really play on us? And one of the issues was the NCAA is claiming, no, the House settlement does really play into this because the House settlement addressed this issue of eligibility and it gave authority to the NCAA to address eligibility. So it really shouldn't apply here. So this actually went to a hearing this week, and the judge, we don't know the ruling on it yet, but the judge really focused on these issues of, is this a moot issue? And I think the NCAA kind of wants this. They could say, yeah, this is a moot issue. Diego's got his waiver. We're not going to really pull his waiver because he's playing right now. They can't really just, go, hey, court, Diego, you're out of here. But what they want, I think the NCAA wants clarity for future cases, so that's why they want to decide it. But the challenge here, Spence, is even if they get clarity from this court, there are many other jurisdictions that have ruled different ways, and I'm not sure it's controlling all of them, and I'm not sure it's going to finally decide what is, this eligibility rule, and that's why it's become a pickle. We don't really have clarity on it.
All right, Garrett, over to you, buddy.
Well, I think timing's been in his favor all along. I mean, being the first one to bring this kind of a case, and now with this issue with it being moot, he's already playing, right? And Vanderbilt's 3-0, so, hey, it looks pretty good so far, paying off for them. As
Frank Layden says, or once said, winning cures a myriad of ills. So there we go. All right, moving to our next story, and one of you guys called this. You said it was going to happen. It's the SCORE Act, supposed to go to a House vote. but the sponsors said, no, we're not going to do it because they don't think they're going to get the votes. Over to you.
Yeah, finally, right? We've been waiting for this. We've been talking about it with all of the confusion and turmoil and moving of goalposts and all of this, all the litigation, and thought, hey, we need some kind of federal law. And so along comes the SCORE Act, and this stands for, you got to love these acronyms on all the legislation. It's the Student Compensation and Opportunity Through Rights and Endorsement Act. And it was supposed to go to a House floor vote just this week. Doesn't look like it's going to happen because they don't have the votes to get it to pass. So I think it's going to go back to get reworked. But like you said, Spence, I mean, this seems like the logical next step after the House settlement that we would see something like this. But it's getting a lot of pushback from a lot of members of Congress, and some of the issues in this legislation would be that student athletes are not going to be found to be employees. There's a preemption argument, and what that means is that if you had a state law, it would be preempted by this federal law, and that's a little bit problematic for a lot of schools because, look at the University of Utah. This is a state-run institution, or Utah State, or any of our state schools. These are state-run institutions funded by taxpayer dollars. And state law should have a say over how things get run and decided, right? That would be the argument. But not so under the SCORE Act. Federal law would preempt, so you wouldn't have that. The other thing that it would do is it would shield the NCAA from certain types of lawsuits, big one being a lot of these antitrust cases, right? Just to give a little bit of clarity going forward. So they're not faced with a lawsuit every time they turn around and try to institute a new rule. But again, back to the drawing board. We're not going to see any legislation just quite yet.
All right, Preston, you're up, bud.
Yeah, I think any time you're looking at legislation, these legislators, they've got competing interests. But in the end, they want a bill. If a bill does pass and is voted for, they want a bill that's going to withstand scrutiny down the road because, one of the concerns is, this bill is going to actually incite lawsuits down the road that they're saying, probably antitrust lawsuits, where they're saying you're limiting our ability to play and to compete.
All right, our guy Shohei Ohtani needs better friends. I don't really know what else to say. Looks like he was being sued, and they're trying to dismiss this suit because it was somebody stealing his identity. Is that what I'm understanding with this one?
Yeah, this grows out of a real estate deal where Shohei, I don't really know the background. We don't know the background on how he entered into it, but there was a developer and a real estate broker, and they had a deal going. And while this deal's going on, it comes to the attention of Shohei's lawyer that these guys are using Shohei's NIL, his likeness, and I wonder if that's was part of the deal, but they're using his name, image, and likeness to promote this development. The lawyer claimed they engaged in self-dealing without authorization and without paying Ohtani for the use and selfish wrongful effort to take advantage of the proximity of the most famous baseball player in the world. Well, behind the scenes, I think there was some talks about with his lawyer saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't be doing this as part of this. And so what the developer and the real estate agent did, they went ahead and filed a lawsuit against Shohei, but not only Shohei, but his lawyer. And their claim was that Shohei was using his power, his celebrity power, to basically to sabotage this real estate deal and to devalue and probably minimize the ownership of this developer and the real estate broker. And now what happens in a lawsuit, Spence, is when a lawsuit's filed, it's set forth with allegations, line by line allegations, all these allegations, and then the party being sued, they come in and they file an answer, and they either respond, they admit, or deny all the allegations. But one of the things you can do before you get to that is you file a motion to dismiss. And that's what Shohei's side has done. They filed a motion to dismiss, basically saying that, the same thing that we mentioned, that these guys are, they are exploiting Shohei's name, image, likeness without him being compensated for it. So they're just going to the court right now to say, hey, this lawsuit, what we always hear from our esteemed colleagues, lawyers, is that this is baseless, meritless, and has now no foundation, and we're going to just, get it dismissed. Well, we'll see if the judge agrees with that. And if it gets dismissed, then it's done, and there might be appeals. But if it not, then it'll go forward in litigation.
All right, Gary, your turn, bud.
I think you're right, Spence. He needs better friends. We've talked about that, or better advisors, or people around him. But I mean, I think right now, the best thing he can have is let his lawyers handle this, so he can focus on the postseason.
All right, moving over to some college hoops. The NCAA is alleging that 13 ex-basketball players bet on or against their teams. I have been talking about this for years and years and years, ever since we moved into widespread acceptance and also accessibility on our phones to be able to place bets. This is a slippery slope that we are sliding down very quickly. But what's the latest on this one? Yeah,
it's a huge problem. I mean, you've got 500,000 NCAA student athletes. I mean, when I saw that number, I can't believe that. There's that many student athletes, and a 2023 survey found that 67% of college, or just college students, not athletes, college students, bet on sports. I mean, it's a huge number. So like you said, it's ubiquitous at this point. You can just pull out your phone, place a bet. And so what's happening now, of course, is that's a big thing for the NCAA to monitor and to look at. And so they're investigating 13 former these are men's basketball players at various schools betting on and against even their own teams. What's interesting, I think, for me, in looking at this, the NCAA is not looking to go after schools or coaching staffs for this. I think there's been cooperation from the schools with these investigations, and they're realizing that this is something that just happens so, I guess, discreetly and under the table and can just happen on an individual basis at any time. That this, the schools don't have any part of this, and so each case is different, and so they're not naming any of the specific players at this point, but really where they're getting caught in particular is through certain texts and social media posts that players have made about betting, and that's coming up in the evidence, and so they're going to go after them in that way with this investigation. What do you got, Preston?
Oh, it's a big job to monitor this stuff now with all the bets going on, and I guess that right now there's an investigation going on with these players, and I think potentially there could be criminal charges filed. We'll wait and see. I think it's probably something we'll be talking about in the future.
Final one for today, Derek Jones Jr. of the L.A. Clippers. The Clippers have been in the news quite a bit lately. He is going to have to pay his former agent, about $1.2 million after signing a contract. What's going on here?
Yeah, Derek Jones Jr., in the summer of 2024, just a little over a year ago, he became a free agent. And at that time, he had an agent named Aaron Turner. Well, Aaron Turner started negotiating free agent deals for Derek Jones, and one of them was with the Clippers. Well, there's a period there where first, Derek Jones Jr., during the negotiation period, he decided to jump from Aaron Turner to Clutch Sports. Well, apparently there's a rule with the NBA that says the NBA collective bargaining agreement needs a minimum waiting period of 15 days before formally switching agents, which gives rise to dispute. So during that 15 days, Aaron Turner was technically still his agent, and he negotiated a deal, a 3-year, $30 million for Derek Jones. And, this rose in a dispute. Hey, do I have to pay you? You're not my agent anymore. And that probably the deal wasn't inked yet. It was just negotiated, but it was later inked. So anytime that there's disputes, as we talked about with all the sports leagues, the collective bargaining agreements, part of it is things need to be arbitrated. And, there's been fights against this arbitration, people trying to get into court. But that also includes agents. I think these agents need to be accredited and licensed with the particular leagues so they can actually act as agents, and when they do that, they also have to go to arbitration. Well, the arbitrator came in and said, no, Aaron Turner earned his money, and you got to pay him his 4% commission. So Clutch Sports is probably the one, hurting right now.
What do you got, Garrett?
Oh, nothing on that one. I think Preston covered it.
All right, fair enough. Before I set you loose, for any of our listeners who have legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, well, give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to anybody out there with legal questions that you have, especially in the area of personal injury, which is what we do. You can reach us at 801-264-6677 or go to our website at handylawutah.com.
Appreciate the time. Thanks for adjusting the hit today. Have a great weekend, and as always, go Utes.
Thanks, Ben.
Go Utes.
All right, Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. If you have any legal questions, really good dudes, give them a call. We're going to bring in Kyle Bonagura for a complete comprehensive preview of the college football weekend ahead. Dave Fox stops by, started things off today with Tony Jones. Then Rob Stone from Fox Big Noon Kickoff will roll by as well. Porter, you referenced, I was talking to Rob about this dynamic, and this comes from the Yahoo piece that Ross Dellinger did on Jason and Devin, Jason Beck and Devin Dampier. The four programs who are 3-0 this year after acquiring both a quarterback and an offensive coordinator from, I'll just call them smaller schools. So proof of concept. I know I've said that 20 times today. I did not hear Jason asked about this. You were referencing somebody actually asked him about this dynamic. What are his thoughts on it?
Yeah, and Jason kind of alluded to it where part of his search, his free agency, I guess, whatever you want to call it, during the offseason, obviously it included teams that were not Utah, right? It included teams across the country. And at one point during that, he, asked Devin, like, which of these schools could I recruit you to, right? Which of these schools do I have an opportunity of bringing you to? And that kind of helped him narrow down his decision. And both of them, of course, have intimated they were really, really high on Utah during that process. And so far, it's worked out, I think, pretty well for those two. But, yeah, it's something that, I don't know that you're going to see it too often, like you were saying. Is it a trend? I think it has to line up perfectly, right, with an OC who's moving up, with a quarterback who's moving up. But in those circumstances, yeah, I think you can definitely look at programs looking for either package deals or, just the amount of connections between programs, between players and schools may be a little bit more important in the transfer-heavy era.
Yeah, obviously you're not just going to do it to do it.
Right.
Proof of concept, again, is something you look for. I was thinking about this earlier today, like the fact that this is all draped in the context of I have no idea if Utah's even played a decent football team yet. There are so many, like the transfer quarterbacks or the freshman quarterbacks that aren't playing well don't get a ton of attention unless your name is Arch Manning because you have the last name Manning. The fact that Devin's look comfortable from jump, I think, is probably the best potential sign that we could have asked for. And I do think a lot of that is steeped in the relationship he has with Jason.
Yeah, it's having a familiarity with that offense. It makes it so, yeah, there's going to be an adjustment, but and Devin talked about this a little bit before kickoff. It really helped him to be the teacher. The fact that he had to teach a lot of his teammates some of the offensive stuff going in kind of made it so he couldn't really think about all the other stuff. He just had to really dive in and be a leader in that regard. So by the time that kickoff got here against UCLA in the Rose Bowl, they were kind of clicking on a cylinder that you expect them to midseason, or at least a collective of guys that have played together before and done so in the same uniform. It made it for definitely a quicker turnover than you may have seen with other schools. And they also went out and recruited other players that have maybe not played for Jason Beck, but have played in those types of offenses and skill sets that they know fit. And that has helped make it a smoother transition as well.
A little bit of breaking news in the world of Major League Baseball. Clayton Kershaw has announced he is retiring at the end of the season. He won 3 Cy Young Awards. Wait, why don't we like Clayton Kershaw?
I don't not like it. He's just so good. And
he is.
Not, some of my favorite moments have not been at the hand of Clayton Kershaw.
When he was at his peak, when he was at his apex, it was like, just shut it down.
Frustratingly good, especially
good.
If you meet him in the wild card.
Sure, indeed. And one of the best pitchers of this generation is going to retire. 3 Cy Youngs, 11 All-Star appearances, 18 years with the L.A. Dodgers. So there you go. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Kyle Bonagura, Dave Fox. That's your 4 o'clock hour on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Couple days away, man. Couple days away now. Utah, Texas Tech. Big week here. You can feel it. I was up on campus this morning walking the station mascot, Duke. And they're setting up. Fox Big Noon kickoff. The stadium looks great, so can't wait for it. Our next guest covers college football for ESPN, our buddy Kyle Bonagura on a Thursday afternoon. Kyle, happy Thursday, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good, Spence. How are you?
I'm good. I'm confused because, well, about a lot of things in life, but let's leave those off air. I think Utah's good. I think Texas Tech is good, but I don't know because we just don't know about the competition as far as the level of teams they've played so far. What's your gut tell you about these two teams as we sit here on this Thursday afternoon?
Yeah, I'll go a little bit further than thinking they're good. Like, I think they're good teams. I mean, you can watch them and come to that conclusion. Yeah, the competition hasn't been great for either of them, but they've all been pretty lopsided games. I know it took a while for Utah to finish off Wyoming last week, but I guess it's like, how good are they? Is probably the question for me. Like, I think for me, looking at the Big 12 right now, they are, for me, the two best teams in the conference. And this could certainly be a preview of the title game at the end of the year. I'm a little bummed that it's happening now, that it's early for both teams in conference play, just because, it feels like it could they could be better later in the year, and it would have been nice to let them have a couple more games to continue to get things ramped up. The flip side, of course, is whoever loses this game has a lot of time to recover by the end of the year to move back up in the rankings. And so if you lose at the end, you're punished a little bit more than losing early. So I guess there's a few ways to look at it. But yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's you look at all the possible matchups in the Big 12 this year. This on paper is the best game for me right now. So I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it. I agree with you that I feel like both of these teams are very good and talented and complete. Just how good they are, I suppose only time will tell. The Cody Campbell narrative and storyline is interesting. We've had some Texas Tech guests on this week, and as the story goes, as has been reported, Cody has been watching his alma mater, and he's seen good skill position players, some of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, and a team that can put up a ton of points, but a team that does not have what it takes in the trenches. So they bring in 3 new offensive linemen, and their DNs, when you watch them, Kyle, their DNs pop. So Romello Height and David Bailey are their DNs, Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, Utah's tackles certainly will have a challenge, and that to me is where it comes down to. But the way I've kind of characterized this is Texas Tech to me is still trying to prove a concept, while Utah has proof of concept under Coach Witt over 21 years. Like, if they want to come in and battle in the trenches, that's what Utah football does,
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. That's certainly the matchup as far as like next level talent going up against each other on every play is, ultimately will be a big part of this game. But yeah, the proof of concept for me, look, we've seen it now with, as NIL has infiltrated the sport, like what money can do. And so for me, this is the most interesting, or one of the most interesting test cases in the sport in terms of like what can an immediate infusion of cash do for a team that has been a fringe good team for a while. Texas has had some really good teams over the year, but they've never been really an elite national team outside of a couple versions of Leach that competed in that tier for a bit. Now we get to see what happens when you are able to go out and spend tens of millions of dollars on building a roster and how quickly that can turn things around. Like, my hypothesis is like, yeah, it's going to work. That money talks, and good players are going to go to where they're the most well paid. And so we're seeing it. But they look really good through 3 games. And again, the qualifier is the opponents, but we're certainly going to find out. On Saturday, what money gets you, right? Or how many more tens of millions of dollars do you have to invest if you're going to win a Big 12 title?
And that's one of the things that makes this so fascinating. I do not gamble on sports. I tell my listeners, we got to be careful with this stuff because it's so easily accessible. But I do follow the lines, and I follow the action. Nobody is touching this line, Kyle. It has not moved. 3.5 is really where you're getting on most sports books. And to me, that's just indicative of the unknown. And it feels like even odds makers, if this was a neutral field game, it would be a pick 'em. But what do you make of the fact that, the line opened and stayed, and essentially even Vegas thinks these two teams are pretty much even?
Yeah, it's hard. There's no data available to give anyone a strong feeling about one or the other, right? I think that's reflected by the line not going anywhere. I do think you have to bake in the home game, and especially a home game at Utah where they've historically been so good. But yeah, it's one of the it's and we talked about it like going into the year. Like it's so hard to figure out what these teams are going to look like, before the year. And even with 3 games, like we're still questioning because of the competition. So like Vegas to a certain degree is trying to, assess how good these teams are as well. And I think the fact that it's not moving is a pretty good indicator that people are not like, there's no real strong feelings here about these teams. And I'm like, I don't bet on sports, but certainly I think watching what happens with the lines is really interesting because it's a pretty good, indicator of the perception, not just by sports books, but of like by the betting public, right? So, the fact that Utah is still a 3.5 point favorite, despite being so bad last year, like for me, shows that look, a lot of people are buying into the early hype on Utah, even though Texas Tech is spent all the money and has looked similarly dominant early in the year.
You're familiar with Oregon State. And, you kind of referenced Utah's slow start against Wyoming, figured it out in the second half. I never really felt like that game was in doubt. They just couldn't punch it in. They didn't take advantage of red zone opportunities. They missed field goals. They had penalties. Then after Devin threw that touchdown pass to Larry Simmons at the end of the third, they just ran away. But Texas Tech jumped on Oregon State right away and never let their foot off the gas until the fourth. It probably could have been 60 to 70, 14. Is Oregon State in any way, shape, or form an accurate litmus test for who Texas Tech is?
There's some context there, right? But Oregon State's just not very good. I mean, I watched them a bunch against Cal, and they looked bad in that game. Fresno State, which it's not a good Fresno State team this year. I watched some of that game as well, and they were out physical by Fresno State. So yeah, this is not a good Oregon State team, and so certainly Texas Tech showed that as well. But it's again we keep going back to it. It's so hard to understand 3 games in, even though they've played against some real teams. Like I think Cal's going to actually be very good. If you look at their schedule, they've got a chance to challenge for the ACC title, and the quarterback's incredible. But so maybe there is some degree of playing some good teams, and it's skewing perception a little bit. But I think Oregon State's going to have a really tough time winning, more than 4 games this year. And so it's, take that with a grain of salt.
You referenced you believe these are the 2 best teams in the Big 12. I believe that's what you said, not to speak for you. Who else right now exists in this cul-de-sac with Utah and Texas Tech in this conference?
Yeah, so I think BYU belongs in the same tier that conversation. So their offense against Stanford was a little bit concerning. And they've only played 2 games. Neither of the opponents are very good, although Stanford did go win after losing to BYU. I mean, I think Iowa State is a legit top 25 team right now. But again, like offensively, I watched quite a bit of them so far, and it's just not that impressive. They've won some really close games. It could have easily gone the other way. You get a third-year quarterback in Rocco Becht, who should be playing better than he is, in my opinion. I think he'll probably come around and make some improvements here as the season progresses. But certainly those 2 belong in the top, in that top quadrant or whatever with Texas Tech and Utah. And then look, I think Houston's played pretty good. I don't know how real that is. I still think Arizona State has a chance to be good. I'm certainly down on that after seeing just the way, the Mississippi State game was was really disappointing for them. And so they could turn it around because I think Kenny's just a really good coach, and that really matters in the sport, of course. And so they'll be around. But I think those are the teams. TCU's, they look to get against Carolina, and we'll find out more what they're about this week with the Skillet game against SMU.
You referenced BYU, and my guess, and if you have been crushing East Carolina tape, Kyle, kudos to you. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you have not, and I'm not going to pretend like I have either. One of my one of the quirks about this business that irritates me is when I can tell a guy in the media who's like, yeah, I've been all over the East Carolina secondary. Okay, whatever. If you have time to do that, go ahead and do that. But let me ask you this. The line has moved towards East Carolina twice. Okay, and East Carolina currently is a 6.5-point dog against BYU. BYU's favored by less than a touchdown on the road at East Carolina. We did have Spencer Hall on last week, and he's been there. I have not, and he said the atmosphere is rather raucous. Do you think it's a freshman quarterback on the road? Like, that line to me indicates maybe this road trip could be a little more uncomfortable for BYU than we initially thought.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be the guy who pretends to know, but I will say that just hearing that number, and I wasn't familiar with it before. Like, I don't know, that seems like a low number, and if there's something that I'm not saying, maybe there is, but that feels low. I think BYU should handle ECU fairly easily. I mean, it's just like historically looking at who they've played. This season, it's they did okay against NC State, had a couple of easy games. It's got to be the travel, and I think really it's the offense against Stanford wasn't great for BYU, and if you are, like you said, freshman quarterback on the road for the first time factors in. But yeah, I think there are certain cases where it doesn't make sense. But of course, the way this always works, Spence, is that Vegas is right, and BYU is going to win this game by exactly 6 points or 7 points, and we'll just be have to tip our caps and say, well, they always know.
So an interesting trend that we've talked about on the show, now that we do have some data, and I continue to use the phrase proof of concept today, people are probably already sick of it, but when you look at what Oklahoma is doing with Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, when you look at what Vandy has done with Tim Beck and Diego Pavia, and then Michigan State with Lindgren and then Aiden Childs, and of course here in Utah with Jason Beck and Devin Dampier, all four teams are 3-0 with the offensive coordinator quarterback combo. Is this something you think? I mean, sports are a copycat situation on any level. If it works, other teams are going to try to do it. But the early returns have been really, really positive. What do you make of it?
Yeah, this is something that is going to be a part of the sport for a long time, I think. I mean, it's just such an easy way to turn things around. And this isn't the first year we've seen this. We saw it with Caleb Williams and Lincoln at USC. We saw it with Cam Ward moving to Washington State with his coordinator coming out of the FCS school down in Texas, Incarnate Word. There's been a number of these examples where guys have moved with the offense and immediately had success. And so I've talked about this with as soon as Kyle did it with his duo this year, I was like, well, this is the exact formula to use to make an offense rebound quickly from where they were at. So yeah, I think it's interesting because now you start looking at, okay, who are the quarterback offensive coordinator combinations that can be next, right? You look at some of the schools where they don't have as much of a budget, and you wonder. You talk about free agent type targets. I mentioned the kid from Cal, JKS, Sanga Patolu, and he's a guy who kind of fits that same mold, right? He's at a place where they don't have a lot of money. Is he going to be someone who gets in with another school comes in with big offers? Brian Harsin as the offensive coordinator there has obviously been around. So you start wondering, okay, who's next? Because it's certainly a proven way to win.
I want to ask you about one of Utah's opponents this year in a program I know you're familiar with. And we talked about this after the game, and I'm watching Utah-UCLA, and in my mind, I'm like, man, UCLA stinks. I didn't think they were this bad, though. They fired Deshaun Foster. Why can't anybody figure it out there? Like, what are the challenges of building a good football program at UCLA?
It's a really tough question because it's baffling. Like, you should, for all of the reasons why they aren't good, there are several other reasons that should make up for that, right? You're in LA, you're at a great school, you play in this venue that you should be able to recruit to, even though it's not a great atmosphere now. But I think like in the market, look, they didn't win a Pac-12 title since 1998, right? So they weren't achieving in over an extended period of time in the old conference. Now in the Big Ten, there's just no chance unless something significant turns things around. But look, they had this really cool opportunity to develop a fan base for 20 years without the NFL, right? No Rams, no Chargers. All you had was USC, which is that's a hurdle for sure, especially with how good USC was during those years. A lot of those years. And they really didn't bring in the neutral fan. Like, they didn't create fans for the program to stick around. And now that you have the NFL in the market, right, you have two NFL teams at this however many $billion-dollar stadium, in a much more central location. It's hard to compete with that for the average eyeball, right? Like, if you don't have any affiliation to UCLA, and are you going to be a Rams fan or a Chargers fan, or are you going to be a UCLA fan? There's just like no way to convert those people anymore. And so we're already struggling to kind of the hearts and minds of LA, if you will. And now the dynamic is even more difficult. On top of that, you're not winning football games. That's not going to help in a place like LA where they're notably fair weather, right? And then just like the ineptitude of the coaching staff. There are so many factors that are working against them, but still, it's still LA. It's still like UCLA. I mean, everyone knows the brand recognition with UCLA should go a long way, and it just hasn't. But I remember when Chip Kelly was hired, and I was like, well, he's the guy to do it, right? You have a guy. He's proven he can do it at the college level. I was bracing for them. This is going to turn it around. Like 2 decades worth of kind of mediocrity is going to be solved here. And Chip Kelly's first year, they set a program record with 9 losses and never really got that much better while he was there. So if he can't win there, I'm not saying he's like some magic bullet, but it's hard for me to be optimistic that anyone's going to really go in there and have success, especially now that they're in the Big Ten.
So a couple of different outlets linked Kalani Sitake to the UCLA job. I mean, he has some Southern California ties. Kalani was asked about it. He deflected because, of course, he did. Do you take the phone call? I mean, BYU really has this momentum right now with a lot of powerful donors and boosters. I mixed those two up with a word that was much worse than that a couple weeks ago. But a lot of money infused into that program right now, both basketball and football. And it feels like they have momentum. And Kalani could probably coach there for another 15, 18 years if he wanted to. And maybe you take the phone call and negotiate a new deal with BYU. There's the dynamic of college football coach buyouts these days being tens of millions of dollars. Maybe you go have a cash grab, but it feels like that's a job where you're hired to be fired. If you're Kalani Sitake, do you even consider it?
I mean, I don't see why he would. It just doesn't make any sense for me. Like, I understand why UCLA would be interested in Kalani.
Sure.
I don't see the other side, right? And like, I think it always makes sense to take the call, though, just because, look, I think it's good to have that information as a coach to know what other programs, how they're operating, and what the money might look like. And if you're Kalani, sure, like if you get an offer from UCLA that leverages you into a better situation for your family, sure, like or even to like, or more of a commitment into the program, like whatever it might be, like there are reasons to communicate. I just don't think it's gonna. I mean, I don't see why. Like, I don't. That doesn't feel realistic to me, though, right? I understand like kind of the dynamics and why they would be in play, but look, no one's been able to win at UCLA. You're not going to be able to, like, it's such a hard conference to win now. And so the kind of the playoff path is easier at BYU than it is at UCLA. The money's going to be comparable. It's a place, he certainly, from my vantage point, and I had the chance to visit with him a little bit there last year, it seems like he really likes the place. I haven't heard anything, contradictory to that. He's well compensated. There's the church element that's in play, of course, as well. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't think there's a world where Kalani Sitake ends up as the coach at UCLA, and unless it's several years down the line and he's been fired at BYU for whatever reason and bounces back. It would take some sort of circumstance like that for that to be realistic. Any
thoughts on who gets the gig and who makes sense to take on the challenge? Because I don't know who does it right now.
No, and like I've read some of those lists, and it's like there's not an obvious guy for the job, and without it, I'm really struggling with that. I don't have a good name for that. I've read all the lists like everyone has, and none of them really pop. I mean, I think they're like I still think they will be able to get a big name coach because it's UCLA and it's LA, and you have a chance to, like, someone's going to look at it as a good opportunity, just like Chip Kelly did a few years ago. But you're not. I don't see them like prying away like a coach at like a big time program, like a hire like that. I could see like a NFL coordinator type hire, something like that. that sort of arrangement feels more realistic. And then you surround yourself with, some guys who have been in the college game recently and kind of understand the landscape of today's game.
Let me get some thoughts from you on a couple of other Big 12 matchups this weekend. It's a big one in Waco. Arizona State, they're still, to me, a team that you have to consider one to watch based off of what they did a year ago, but it has not looked great, I'd say, through 3 games. And Baylor's one of those kind of sneaky teams where you could certainly see them going on a bit of a run and having something to say about this conference. I actually saw Dave Aranda's name on a UCLA list based off of his upbringing as well. But what do you think happens down in Waco between Arizona State and Baylor on Saturday?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I feel better about Baylor right now than I do about against ASU. I was just left really questioning Arizona State. And I said earlier they could be in that tier. I probably should have included Baylor as well. I watched a bunch of the SMU game, and offensively that was really impressive from Baylor. Defensively it wasn't, which felt like an anomaly. Like Aranda's one of the most well thought of defensive minds in college football. It's like why he got a head coaching job is because what he's able to do on the as a defensive coordinator, right? I would pick Baylor. Just call it a gut instinct. And then as far as Aranda as a UCLA candidate, I don't think he has the personality to be in LA right now. That for me just it's kind of a non-starter as terms of fit. I know he's he went to college there, or not at UCLA, but went to college in LA and has strong ties to the area. But that's not enough for me to look at that as a possible fit.
So Colorado's still trying to figure out their quarterback, and I don't think Wyoming goes in there and wins at Folsom and Boulder. But I'm telling you, man, I don't know if that those Wyoming kids were just juiced to show the world what they could do against Utah. There's some tough physical football players on that roster. What do you think happens down in Boulder this weekend?
Yeah, I think there's just like a talent gap.
Yeah.
So anytime there's such a talent gap, I just got to defer to the team with more of it. So I expect Colorado to win, but I do think the quarterback thing has been weird, man. For me, it was bizarre that they made a change after Staub came in and had 3 good series against Delaware, right? You have an entire off season. You've been evaluating Staub for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's been. You bring in this guy who's been a 4-year starter, had a lot of success at Liberty with Salter. You give him one game, half of that, a few series in the next one, and then you turn it over to a guy who's been in the program, name him the starter, praise him publicly, based off of success against Delaware. And Salter wasn't even that bad in that game. Some of it I think comes down to just play calling, right? You can only execute what's called by the coach, and so I think that was probably a factor in why Staub had some success and Salter not so much. And the fact that you have this other 5-star true freshman QB is really interesting as well, because you kind of thought that maybe you turn the reins over to him. But I'm going to put on my conspiracy theory hat for a second, if you will let me. And it's that, look, you can if you play in more than 4 games, you can't redshirt, right? And so if Salter didn't get the job again, if it was clear that he wasn't going to get the job, he could have just redshirted this year and transferred. And so for me, it's all right, you keep him in the building a little bit longer. Maybe that's what they're doing to try to extend this to make sure that no one leaves because we're still in that first 4-game window.
Final game I want to ask you about. Once upon a time, an incredible rivalry in college football, the Iron Skillet rivalry, as it's known. TCU, to your point, has been impressive so far, but I think they have a chance to solidify themselves, directly in that Tier 1 in the Big 12 if they can beat SMU at home. What do you think happens in Fort Worth this weekend?
Yeah, I like TCU. I think everyone watched the North Carolina game, and I didn't watch anything the following week. But yeah, they look really good. They look solid across the board. Defensively, they were good. Offensively, they're fast and well drilled, and the quarterback looked like he can really play as well. So yeah, I like TCU, but again, SMU, they've got the cash in that building as well to bring in some good players, and obviously we saw what they could do last year, which was really impressive. So it's kind of sad that it's the last meeting between these two teams for a while. Another rivalry being sent to the pasture, but I'm excited to watch TCU, and because I think if they get through SMU, it's obviously a non-conference game, but like they can, earn more trust and credibility with kind of competing at the teams at the top of the Big 12.
All right, Kyle, thanks for the time, man. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll chat soon.
All right. See you, Spence.
Kyle Bonagura covers college football for ESPN. You can get him on Twitter at Bonagura. ESPN is where you find him. All right. Hope you have all the games at your disposal. Hope you have your TV set up the way it needs to be set up. If you do not have Dish and you're a sports fan, I can promise you're missing out. Internet solutions as well. Bottom line, do you like to save money? I mean, you should call the Dish Pros. 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
That's the thing. Who doesn't like saving money? And that's the number one thing we're after is help people upgrade and save their money. And then, guys, the awesome promotions right now. They're so good. Dish has got this 2-year promotion. It's a 2 years worth of credits. The price is guaranteed. And, guys, they added a bunch of extras to it with 3 months free of Dish's top package. That's over 400 channels on that package. You get that free. Plus, you get the multi-sports pack, which includes the NFL Red Zone, free for the next 6 months. And we'll throw in some movie channels, Paramount Plus, get you the biggest, fastest DVR out there. And, guys, it's a lot cheaper, especially cable DirecTV customers. You can expect to save thousands with this phone call. So don't wait. Pick up the phone and call us now. Plus, if you're trapped in the cable bundle, no worries. I've got great internet solutions, fiber, all sorts of different great solutions out there. And, guys, it's a lot cheaper than what you're currently paying. There's new customer promotions, and the products are fantastic. And, listen, you're spending more than $60-70 a month. Call us up and see what we can do for you. 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Professionals. Want to tell you about my friends at America First Credit Union. America First Credit Union currently has 114 branch locations in Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Idaho, and now California, providing superior financial products and services from a variety of checking and savings accounts to financial education services and support of small businesses. America First Credit Union puts members first. It's the official credit union of Utah Athletics and home of Real Salt Lake. More at americafirst.com. Dave Fox, live in studio, maybe? Is Dave joining us in studio coming up?
No.
Not in. What is Dave Fox doing right now that he can't be live in studio?
The most important thing of Dave's week, high school football.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, that dude has an amazing schedule. I had to call him this week, and it was like 11:30. I was like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know, nothing, waiting for the cleaning ladies, then I'm going to lunch. I'm like, all right, Dave.
PMTV, man.
It is. Dave joins us via telephone, coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. We are efforting Dave Fox, which is a sentence, Porter Larson, I never want to say on this radio show.
It's usually I do it every week. He only joins us every other week though, because he's tough to nab.
When you try to get him on the show, is he usually easy to book, or
No.
is he he's a diva?
No, I have to go through his agents, and then if we don't make sure, right, like commercial break, 30-minute warning, hour before, day of, he's nowhere to be found. He's like off on a boat, he's on a beach. If you don't make sure he's ready to go, he might miss you. So that's what we're dealing with today.
Well, he does. Do you send read receipts on text messages?
I don't think so. Like where you can see if the other person's seen it.
Yeah, if you send a text, it will say read.
I don't think so. You might have to tell me that. Does it tell you when you text me?
Well, let me check.
I don't think it does. I think I turned that. I think I used it for a while, and then I was like, I actually don't want to do this because I don't respond well to some texts. I
don't know why anybody does it. I feel like everybody over 60 does it though, and Dave does. So I sent him a text, and he has not read it. Yeah, maybe he's probably busy getting a foot massage or something
right before the game time. Yeah, for Skyridge and whoever he's playing.
Do you have any idea who they're brought? We should give him a little love. I mean, watch high school football on KUTV, I guess is what I'll say, or KMYU. I don't know.
Yeah, please do. He's driving to Skyridge right now. I don't know who they're playing, but that's where the broadcast is. So go home team.
Well, guess what? Next time he wants me on his show, no dice.
Ooh.
I'm not showing up, nor am I answering my phone.
I will. I'll at least take the blame this week because he was supposed to be on Tuesday.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll see if Dave answers.
To Dave's defense.
Okay, fair enough. All right. While we're efforting Dave, I do want to tell you about a new client that we have on the show. And I'm excited about this because we have a lot of clients on the show, and I cannot give you a personal experience with them. I want you to definitely support all of the clients that we have on the show. And if you have a need for windows, you should definitely call Nate Orchard. If you want legal advice, you should call Handy and Handy. But I have personal experience with our new client, and I'm excited to share with you because I can just tell you what it's done for me. It's changed my entire life. And if you're looking to get back in shape, they can help you. I can promise you that. If your libido is low, mine wasn't, but if yours is, they can help you. I promise you. They can help you with that too. If you've noticed as you've aged, it's harder to get in shape. If you noticed as you've aged, you just feel a little bit more fatigued when you try to go work out. Game Day Men's Health can really help you alleviate those issues. So just real quick, a couple of years ago, my goal was to be in the best shape of my life as I'm aging into my late 40s. So started going to the gym, started going to yoga, cleaned up my diet, cleaned up some vices and habits. And after about 3 months, I'm like, this doesn't feel like I'm making a lot of progress, even though I'm working really hard. Now, let me be clear. There's no such thing as a shortcut when it comes to getting in shape. It doesn't exist. People try to sell you diet pills and, do this for 48 hours. That's not how it works. Number one, you've got to put in the work every day. Number two, you've got to clean up your habits. Number three, you've got to eat clean. Probably in inverse order, actually. Eating clean is the number one thing. But after about 3 months of really hard work and being very diligent on my diet, I was disappointed with what I perceived to be lack of progress. So Game Day Men's Health, they can help you with what the bros these days are calling biohacking, okay? So they've got the weight loss stuff. They have semaglutide. They have tirzepatide. I do not use that, but I know that's been something that's worked really well for a lot of people. What I utilize is testosterone therapy. And after I started utilizing testosterone therapy, within 2 to 3 months, I had far more progress than I did prior to. I mean, it is a cheat code, okay? These are products once upon a time that were reserved for elite athletes, celebrities, or uber wealthy people. That's not how it is anymore. They're very, very affordable. And with what Game Day Men's Health is giving you as a result of them being on the show, it's more affordable than you could even imagine. So number one, you get a free consultation. Okay, here's what that looks like because I did it. You go into the office, and Game Day Men's Health has locations all across the Wasatch Front. Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Cottonwood Heights is the one I use, and then South Ogden. So you go into the office, you schedule the consultation. Do that first at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. schedule the consultation, give you a free testosterone test and a free consultation where they take a little bit of blood. You sit there for about 10, 15 minutes. Then the results come in very quickly, and they go over your levels with you to say, okay, this is where it's good. This is where you could bump up a little bit. And this is how we can utilize these products to help you. So the two products I use, peptides and testosterone therapy. Went in there, had my blood taken. They went over the levels, and they said, peptides can help you with this. Testosterone can help you with that. And they were able to hook me up with these products. I started using them. And then, boom, within weeks, you can see the results. Like I said, they have semaglutide, they have tirzepatide. But the other thing they do is they monitor you throughout the course of the process. So they don't just give you a bunch of stuff and say good luck. Within 2 or 3 weeks, you go back in, they check the level again. It's like, okay, then they adjust. There's a real science to it that I was just not educated about. So that's what you do. You go in, schedule a consultation. They'll give it to you for free. They're going to go over your results. But here's the kicker. Here's what makes it completely worthwhile, and you should not wait to contact them. Because they're a client on the show, they're giving you 50% off the first-year membership. When I actually had DJ, our sales rep, come up with a deal, and they came back with 50%, I'll be honest, I was floored. Usually it's like 10%, 20%, whatever. You get half off the first-year membership with Game Day Men's Health, okay? So GameDayMen'sHealth.com is where you go. Free consultation, then 50% off your first-year membership with our good friends at Game Day Men's Health. We are firing Dave Fox. He's not answering his phone, so we'll move on. We will move on from Dave Fox. All right. So, of course, it's a big week around here. Walked the station mascot Duke up on campus today at the University of Utah. Beautiful Thursday afternoon. It is gorgeous up there. The Fox Noon guys are setting up. Had Gus Johnson on the show yesterday. Our guy Rob Stone on the show today. So excited to just kind of get the feel. I mean, hopefully you guys are going to get up early. Our tailgate will begin at 7 o'clock. And I believe that's when they're going to open up the lot for an early kick. So the ESPN 700 VIP tailgate right on Guardsman's Way. If you're looking for a place to hang out prior to the game, come chill with us and get going a little bit early. So it'll be a lot of fun. I've referenced this a couple of times today, the interesting dynamic with Texas Tech and Cody Campbell, their billionaire oil tycoon who has invested tens of millions of dollars into talent acquisition, is a lot of the money went into the trenches for Texas Tech. Romulo Height, David Bailey, their two defensive ends, they pop. If you watch this team play, they just pop right off the screen. They are big, strong athletes, both of them projected to be NFL guys. The battle between those two and Spencer Fano, and Caleb Lomu is going to be a fascinating watch and ultimately could be where this game is decided. Now, both teams have quarterbacks that are playing at a really high level. Devin Dampier, by the way, the only quarterback in the Big 12 with 85 or more attempts and 0 interceptions. Now, remember, a lot of us, me included, talked about Devin's mediocre passing numbers a year ago in New Mexico. I mean, he was dynamic with his legs, but he had 12 touchdowns. He had 12 picks. Would he be able to take care of the football playing quarterback at the University of Utah? And look, only time will tell because so far it has not been the greatest of competition, and now it's conference play. Texas Tech acquired 2 really good defensive backs in the transfer portal as well. So we'll see how long this streak lasts, but that has been potentially my favorite thing about watching Devin play is that he's been able to take care of the ball, and it's not like Jason is kind of neutering him. He's letting him do his thing. But the battle in the trenches is where it's going to be won. I've said it 20 times today. I'll say it again. If Texas Tech wants to play that game, Utah football is all about it. Texas Tech is trying to prove a concept. Utah football has proof of concept. They're two different things. A lot of respect for Texas Tech, obviously. They're the number 1 offense in the country in a myriad of different categories, including points per game. They've got a great quarterback. They've got a bunch of different wide receivers. Cowboy Coy Aiken is their slot receiver, and Reggie Virgil is a threat on the outside that can take it to the house. So there you go. It should be a really fun game. And just for context, I do find it very fascinating that this line has not moved an inch. I check it every couple of hours. The BYU line moved twice today. I find that really interesting. The BYU line moved twice towards East Carolina. As we sit here right now, BYU is a 6.5-point favorite. That is down. And it happened today. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the guys in Vegas usually get it right. That's why there's a casino built every other week in the desert. That's why you shouldn't gamble on sports. All right, we'll catch a break. College football will take you all the way up to the 6 o'clock hour. And then at 6:15, it's time for a little Thursday night football. It is the Bills taking on the Dolphins. So a lot of football left to go on this Thursday afternoon. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up. Final segment of the show for today. Thursday night football comes your way coming up on the other side. The Buffalo Bills are a healthy 12.5-point favorite to win against Miami at home. Buffalo is awesome. Miami is not. There you go. Analysis for the game. Buffalo's awesome. Miami is not.
That's decent analysis. May see some locals in action tonight. That's about the only scope I'm looking through because, yeah, like you said, Buffalo, 12, 13-point favorites. Not only is that a huge spread for the NFL, but they'll probably cover it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout, but you should listen because we have it on our station and it's football. Amazon Prime is where you find it. All right, Porter, we need to give a shout out. I am off tomorrow to attend the wedding of the original producer of this program, one JP. John Paul Chung is getting married, so I will take the day off to attend that wedding.
Shout out John Paul, a staple of the drive on the afternoons here.
Indeed.
Long before we were around.
Yeah, the seat that is occupied by Porter. How long have you been producing the show now? Is it 4 years?
Yeah, pandemic time when we had to, we had some casualties of the pandemic.
We did. Shout out Brady, sweet
Didn't
kid.
die.
He did. Brady is not dead. He just did. He just got let go. It's always so awkward when I do that.
Pandemic casualty, work-wise.
Yeah, indeed. So Brady took over for JP, and then Porter took over for Brady, and Porter's been doing this for about 4 years. But John Paul's become a good friend, so So I'm going to go attend his wedding tomorrow. Scott Mitchell will have you taken care of, which means, Porter, I have to give you my pick for the Utah game.
That you do.
I am going Utah 31.
Okay.
Texas Tech 41. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm going Utah 31, Texas Tech 27. So what that means is Utah covers the 3.5, and I am taking the over based off of this score. The over is 56.5. So my final is Utah 31, Texas Tech 27. So you guys enjoy the game. Porter, what comes our way on a Friday edition of The Drive?
On a Friday with our friend Scott Mitchell hosting the show, Sam Bruckhouse of Sumer Sports for his weekly hit, Robert Johnson. We'll have a little quarterback and safety discussion on the show, Paul Pugmire for his weekly golf update. We'll chat with Coach Bill Bush and more live from Tim Daly out there on State Street.
All right, there you go. So give Scott and Porter your ears tomorrow, and I'll say goodnight. And a special thank you to Tony Jones, to Rob Stone, to Kyle Bonagura, and not to Dave Fox. For any of the sound you may have missed from the show today, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. App is available in the App Store, Google Play Store for free. Support our podcast page if you like what we do in the afternoons. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Enjoy a little Thursday night football in upstate New York. It's Bills Dolphins. Comes around the other side right here on ESPN 700.